A papyrus fragment suggesting Jesus Christ of Nazareth was actually married is now being labeled by some experts as fraudulent as well. Scholars are questioning the much-publicized discovery by a Harvard scholar that a 4th-century fragment of papyrus provided the first evidence that some early Christians believed Jesus was married. Karen King, a professor of early Christianity at Harvard Divinity School, announced the finding Tuesday at an international congress on Coptic studies in Rome. The text, written in Coptic and probably translated from a 2nd-century Greek text, contains a dialogue in which Jesus refers to my wife, whom he identifies as Mary. I would say it's a forgery, Alan Sushiu, a papyrologist at the University of Hamburg, told the Associated Press, while attending an international congress on Coptic studies in Rome. The script doesn't look authentic when compared to other samples of Coptic papyrus script dated to the 4th century. Stephen Emmel, a professor of Coptology at the University of Münster, who was on the International's advisory panel that reviewed the 2006 discovery of the Gospel of Judas, said the text accurately quotes Jesus as saying my wife. But he questioned whether the document was authentic. There's something about this fragment in its appearance and also in the grammar of the Coptic that strikes me as being not completely convincing somehow, he said in an interview on the sidelines of the conference. Wolf-Peter Funk, a noted Coptic linguist, said there was no way to evaluate the significance of the fragment, because it has no context. It's a partial text and tiny, measuring 4 cm by 8 cm 1.5 inches by 3 inches, about the size of a small cell phone. He, too, doubted the authenticity, saying the form of the fragment was suspicious. Hani Sadak, the Director General of the Coptic Museum in Cairo, said the fragment's existence was unknown to Egypt's antiquities authorities until news articles this week. I personally think, as a researcher, that the paper is not authentic because if it had been in Egypt before, we would have known of it and we would have heard of it before it left Egypt. An anonymous collector brought King the fragment in December 2011, seeking her help in translating and understanding it. King has said the owner wants to sell his collection to Harvard. Experts in the illicit antiquities trade also wondered about the motive of the fragment's anonymous owner, noting that the document's value has likely increased amid the publicity of the still unproven find. Some archaeologists were quick to question Harvard's ethics, noting that the fragment has no known provenance, or history of where it's been, and that its owner may have a financial interest in the publicity being generated about it. There are all sorts of really dodgy things about this, said David Gill, professor of archaeological heritage at University Campus Suffolk and author of the Looting Matters blog, which closely follows the illicit trade in antiquities. This looks to me as if any sensible, responsible academic would keep their distance from it. He cited the ongoing debate in academia over publishing articles about possibly dubiously obtained antiquities, thus potentially fueling the illicit market. Media spin is that this proves Jesus had a wife. Let us just listen to what Karen King says herself, without the spin.
In this 4th century fragment of a book written in the Coptic language, we have a new, previously unknown gospel. 8 lines on the front, 6 lines on the back. The most exciting line in the whole fragment, however, is the sentence, Jesus said to them, to his disciples that is, Jesus said to them, my wife. What this does not mean is that Jesus had a wife. It's not evidence for us historically that Jesus had a wife.
So, why would this papyrus have appeared in the 4th century? Again, let us ask Mrs. King.
I was very interested in asking a question, when was the first time that we have evidence of that anybody actually said Jesus was not married? And I was surprised to find that it is indeed right during the same period when we're dating this fragment. And so what we can see is that it's about 150 years after Jesus died, before the question is raised, did Jesus have a wife or not? And when it is raised, it's tied to discussions, even controversies, even arguments, that early Christians are having about proper Christian practice. Should Christians marry or should they be celibate?
My own question, some reports are saying that this proves he was married to Mary Magdalene. But how is that possible, when her name does not even appear here?